the first person to call me a coconut growing up was my father. And by the time I became a teenager, I was definitely one confused, one confused youngster. Um, some of the things that I would do that are so embarrassing now as an adult is I would whitewash my name. But yeah, growing up post 9/11, I think what we did, which a lot of Asians did at the time, was that we went quiet. I took a module that I really remember, and it was media, crime, and criminal justice, and it blew my mind.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Ramblings of a Sikh, where we sit down with the people who've actually lived through the history we're all arguing about online. I'm your host, Amar Singh, and today we're diving into the now infamous Coconut Placard Case. My guest today is Marieha Hussain, a teacher, sociologist, first-generation Brit, and the woman at the center of this case. We're going to talk about what it means to grow up being called a coconut, to feel the pressure to erase your own brownness, and then years later, to stand your ground when the police, the media, and the politics around protest all turn their attention onto you. We'll also explore Marieha's journey that took her from shrinking her identity to standing up publicly with that placard, what happened next, what her trial exposed about the country, and the lessons she wants others to take from it. If any part of this resonates with you, feel free to subscribe, drop a comment about what you think, or leave a like. You could also share this with someone who you think will find it interesting. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's get into it. Before we go kind of through all of this, and we were just talking off camera about how I've been following this story from the day it broke and it hit Twitter. Who are you? Can you tell us a bit more about your upbringing? You were just sharing something now with me, which I just thought I wasn't expecting, but I think it goes to echo the journey of a lot of people from a South Asian background. Like I myself had a lot of identity issues growing up, and especially looking the way I look and kind of standing out from the crowd. So yeah, like what was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up? What kind of home and community did you come from? And also, I think who were you growing up? How did that develop through kind of your early years?
Okay, so I was born in Scotland, and yeah, Glasgow, Scotland. And my father is a doctor. He was a junior doctor when I was born, and he was low coming a lot, and we moved around a lot. Just to give you a perspective of how much we moved, I was born in Scotland. My brother was born a year after me in Birmingham, and my sister was born a year after him in Plymouth. And then we lived in Wales and a few other places, and then we did a stint abroad. We moved to Saudi. So I didn't really come from a fixed community. We weren't really embedded in a single community. We were mixed and moved around quite a lot. And by the time I was a teenager, we settled in Buckinghamshire. And my introduction really to the word coconut came from home. The first person to call me a coconut growing up was my father. And I was a true coconut. I was. And it was a joke, and it was banter, and it was funny, and it was true. I was struggling with identity, and I really wanted to absorb as much as I could of white society at the expense of my own identity. So that part, I think that last part's really important, at the expense of my identity, which is that I'm Pakistani, which is that I'm Muslim, which is that I'm brown, which is that my parents are immigrants, which is that my mum has a really strong accent, and everything else that goes in between. So I disliked all of those things about me, and I really wanted to whitewash myself as much as possible. And because I'm a youngster, I don't know that I'm doing this. It is all kind of subconscious. I don't really know what I'm doing. And at that point, I'm not harming anybody either. I'm just hurting my own spirit and my own identity, and maybe my grandparents a little bit. My dad recognized what was going on, and he used to joke and say, this one, she's a coconut, Maria, you're a coconut. And I said that in court as well, explained to the judge and to everyone in the courtroom. That's how I grew up. And the word coconut was flung around, and we're first generation British born, and many of us were coconuts growing up, and we had to really work through that. And so I grew up into adulthood not realizing that there could be any issue with this word, because there never has been. And yeah, that's how I grew up.
That's amazing. I just think the more that, and this is why I enjoy doing this, is obviously the more that I talk to yourself, the more I'm just surprised by some of the facts. And it's not that they're surprising in themselves, but it's just that you're like, wow, this story is a lot deeper than what I think you get the impression of when you just read a news article or you see a tweet. And you're essentially more British than most British people because you have been all over the country in realistically, right? Like as in Plymouth, Birmingham, and Glasgow. Did you say in the space?
Yeah, Glasgow, Wales. We did a good stint in Wales, and we've been in Buckinghamshire for, 20 years now.
I guess a question just on that is, as someone who, as you're growing up, I don't think this is necessarily unique to you or to I, and I think a lot of brown folk, a lot of people of color who are from non-white communities will find this or will relate to this because you're constantly almost trying to battle. Like, I'll give you a really random example. I was helping with she's the lady who essentially organizes all of the RE or the RE curriculum in Coventry. Um, and they're taking a big emphasis on kind of getting lived experience. So talking to people from the different religious groups and asking them what they would answer to these questions. And I was saying to her how remarkable it is to hear what they're doing because I remember going to school and getting given a sheet about Sikhism, and I'd be like, actually, my lived experience doesn't match with this sheet. So am I now wrong? And as a teenager, you almost accept that authority because you're like, oh God, school must be correct. So now to see it being flipped on its head, I was like, the impact you will have on these children is just remarkable. And that's something that I wanted to bring back to yourself, which is as you're growing up and you're moving through all of these different communities, how is it growing up as someone who is grappling with their identity, grappling with society at large, also just growing up and going through everything that that comes with, and then also having to change schools and everything else that comes with that? Like, what was that like, and how did that mold you in a particular way? Because I'm sure you got to university and you were like, hold on, this world is actually completely different.
I think looking back now, moving around a lot, never having a fixed set of groups of friends, particularly friends that are Muslim and brown like myself, and being around predominantly white people means that my struggle with my brownness and my lack of whiteness was stronger than ever. Um, I I wanted to fit in more wherever I went. I wanted to fit in desperately, and I recognized as a youngster one of the best ways to do that is to strip myself of my otherness. Um, and nobody, it's so interesting because nobody's taught me to do that. Nobody directly, explicitly told me. My parents have never said, Maria, when you go to school, don't really bring up that you're a Muslim. Don't really talk about your religion. You don't really need to talk about where we're from in Pakistan. You don't need to talk about what life is like. Maria, don't joke about things. They never did anything like that. It's something that you pick up implicitly from everywhere. Jokes, banter, the media, conversations you overhear adults say, what celebrities and what pop stars are famous and what's beautiful and what's not and what's good and what's bad. It's all being fed to me every minute of every day implicitly, but it's building up an identity in myself. So I think that even people who do grow up surrounded by people that look like them, have their own religious beliefs and things like that, even they would struggle because that implicit force is so powerful. They would still struggle with that. But I did feel that I struggled so much with it. And by the time I became a teenager, I was definitely one confused, one confused youngster. Some of the things that I would do that are so embarrassing now as an adult is I would whitewash my name. We were just talking about this earlier. My name is Marieha, but if somebody accidentally mispronounced it and called me Maria or Mariah, I was happy. I enjoy. I would go out of my way to mispronounce it. You don't have to put Marieha. What is Marieha? You can call me Mariah. I love that. That's great. And when I was young, the trend of colored contacts came out. Asians will know this. That was right up my street. I would do anything to get rid of my brown eyes and to have nice blue eyes, nice grey eyes. And it was all part of that self hatred that I was fostering inside, that I didn't know what I couldn't give it a name or a label. I was too poorly educated. I was misunderstanding what was going on with my identity. And I thought it's the trend. This is great. If anybody misconfused my race and thought maybe I was mixed race, I would love that. She thinks I'm mixed race. She thinks that I could be white somewhere. That's great, fantastic. Um, it's not that there's anything wrong with any of those things. The point is that it's at a detriment to my true identity, and that's where my father started to say, "Oh my God, Marie has grown up to be a big coconut. This one." And yeah, it was all fun and games, and yeah, I was growing up around first generation of British Asians, and all of us were being called coconuts by the generation before, and it was fine. It was true.
I guess one question or one factor that I think a lot of brown folk almost take for granted, but it's been the most, I guess, instrumental event to have impacted us in the last 30 years, is obviously things like 9/11 and everything that happened post that. So how did things like that factor into how you viewed yourself? Because I have to admit, I remember like the issues that the Sikhs faced post 9/11 was more so the fact that everyone would misidentify people who looked like I for people like bin Laden. But the rhetoric itself in kind of the media landscape isn't geared towards Sikhs as a community. It's obviously more Islamophobic in its language. So how did things like that impact you, and especially then when you're, I assume, still grappling with bits of your identity, and then the media's even gone kind of like tenfold on some of those extremes?
Yeah, I think I was about 14 years old, 14 or 15 years old when 9/11 happened. I remember, I think I was in year nine, and the fallout from that. And I think going back to what you said about the way that you look and confusing you for Muslims and all those Osama bin Laden comments, I think if I remember correctly, the first post 11 anti-Muslim murder was of a Sikh man. It wasn't even of a Muslim. So this is what happens when the media and governments, when they do this. There's no context, there's no appreciation for cultural religious differences. They've bumped all brown people together and everybody's in danger.
Just
Okay?
like we're facing today, like just like now.
Yes, yes, yes. Just like we're facing now, the anti-Muslim hatred that is reaching a boiling point actually in the UK. It doesn't just endanger Muslims; it endangers Hindus, Sikh, Sri Lankans, everybody. I think that actually I mean I hate it must be brought up the absolute travesty that is the rape of the two Sikh women up north. I think that the background of those hate crimes is that they thought they were Muslim women. So it's really highlighting that this isn't a Muslim problem. This is most obviously a black and brown problem, and that everybody's in danger, not just Muslims. But yeah, growing up post 9/11, I think that the impact it has, instead of opening my eyes to the racial injustices, the biases of the media, I still considered myself relatively young. I think what we did, which a lot of Asians did at the time, was that we went quiet and we went small. And we distanced ourselves from our quite obvious Muslim or Asian or brown traits as much as possible, tried to fit in even more, and it was trying to put a security blanket and a safety net around us. I think many of us did that. We went into survival mode, and that was to distance ourselves, which looking back obviously wasn't the right thing to do, but to distance ourselves from what was going on globally, with the war on terror, which was a war on Muslims, which was a war on civil liberties and freedom of speech, and all it was a war on all sorts actually at the time. We distanced ourselves from that, and tried to increase our proximity to whiteness, however we could do that best.
I guess then this leads me on nicely to the next question, which is things like 9/11 happened, and the war on terror and stuff like that. And as you rightfully said, a lot of us basically withdrew, went smaller, kind of, I wouldn't say hid ourselves, but made ourselves less obvious in kind of the landscape, so that people can't necessarily use us as a target as easily as they may want to. And I guess then why or how, like, what happened to you then to go from that to then turning up at this protest with a placard that makes a very, in my opinion, it makes a strong statement, although I do agree it's completely satire and it holds its place in a very kind of cultural understanding. What made you go from, obviously you were a lot younger at that time, so I completely understand, but you've come from that kind of understanding at that point, which is, you know what, let's just kind of sidestep. We've got things to get on with. Let's just kind of live our lives. To then actually deciding, however many years later, what, like 24, 25 years later, to go, hold on, something is wrong. I don't agree with this. I'm going to make a point. What, like, I know that's a lot of time to cover,
Yeah,
but what changed?
if I condense it down really quickly, because it's a lifetime of turning things around and really tackling the colonial mindset that I had. It really began looking back at university. I studied sociology and psychology. I took a module that I really remember, and it was media, crime, and criminal justice, and it blew my mind. It was my first introduction to racism, bias. It's the first time I learned about Rupert Murdoch's, political sway and the number of times that Muslim names were used negatively and this, that, and the other, and the way the stories are. So I didn't know any of that before, and it opened my eyes, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on? I didn't know any of this. Anyway, the process still after that was relatively slow. I trained to become a teacher, and I start hearing and seeing things in schools, and I think, oh my God, this is what I have been. This was me when I was in school. Now I'm the teacher. Now you're the students, and I can see what's going on. I've got students asking me to change their names and pronounce it in a very whitewashed way. Asian students, and I think, okay, I get you. I know what's going on here. It's all right. And I look at the curriculum and I look at there's no brown faces, there's no brown names, there's no Muslim names, there's no black names, there's no everything that we're teaching the kids is very, very much a Eurocentric Western perspective. Absolutely everything that we teach them. And I get married. I marry a brown Muslim man. I have brown Muslim sons, and I more and more I'm being exposed to the racism and I do think that my husband, I do think that men that are more obviously Muslim with the beards and that kind of thing, and the darker your skin is, I think that they experience racism so much more and so much more obviously, and I'm becoming more and more exposed to them. But the real catalyst was Palestine. The real catalyst in the change in my views was Palestine. When I understood the colonial history, the state violence, the global violence against Palestine, and the way that the Western world, the UK, for example, has framed it in that, they've done something so good out there. They've given a place for the Jews, and Israel deserves to have its own state, and the constant framing that that Palestinians are violent, and that they are unwilling to share space with white Jewish people, and that they are criminals, and just the history of the land, the colonialism, the media bias. The more I learned about that, the more I became enraged, actually. I started attending protests. I thought it was the absolute least and it is the absolute least you can do is take some time out of your day, once a month, a couple of times a year, and go to these protests. So I started doing that, and every year around Ramadan is when the violence on the Palestinian people would really would really go up a notch, because they're fasting. It's a holy month, and every Ramadan we're fasting, and we would be down there, outside Parliament or outside the Israeli embassy, and we would be protesting. And I also, in my real life, found myself being surrounded by Muslim friends. I had more of a brown Asian community, and I was really fitting in. And I was around people we were adults now, and we were all stripping away our the mental slavery that had us chained for so many years, and motherhood and teaching and all of that, and age, just natural progression of growing up, was stripping that away. So I was attending Palestine protests, and then I go to the one in November 2023, Armistice Day. And that's the day that I made that placard depicting Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman, who were then the Prime Minister and Home Secretary, as coconuts, thinking nothing of it, thinking it's the way I've always grown up. This is banter. This is a joke. I'm taking a pop at them. I'm not trying to be nice or kind. I'm holding my hand up to that, and I'm not. We're not. I mean, it's my democratic right to be critical of politicians. We're not here to just applaud everything that they have to say and do. We are here to really hold them to account. That's the freedom. That's my freedom of speech, and that's a democracy that the UK has bombed other countries for. So I'm standing on that. I've gone into London. I've taken this placard. I'm calling them coconuts. I call them coconuts for the very reason that what I understand coconuts to be. They are aligning themselves with far right white supremacist agendas, and you can see that through their racist, dangerous rhetorics, particularly from Suella Braverman, and all the dangerous and racist policies that Rishi Sunak was pushing out at the time. So I just think to myself, I see what's going on here. Brown person to brown person, I see what you're doing. I'm going to call you out, okay? And I go to the protest, no problems. The day of the protest was wonderful. Everybody loved the placards. Now, I always go with a placard. I almost always try to make a statement and go with a placard saying something, showing something. This was my most popular placard ever. The amount of pictures people took of my placard, and I've said this so many times, the amount of people's pictures I took with my placard, can I take a picture of the placard? And I'm taking their picture with my placard. Nobody, not one single time in the 3-4 hours we were at the protest, nobody asked me, what does that mean? What's that supposed to be?
So no one made a comment. No one said this is like
No,
untoward. Nothing.
no black person, no brown person, no white person asked me.
Wow.
And that's the range of people we had. It's such a diverse people
Yeah.
protesting for Palestine. Nobody asked me. And more importantly, nobody said to me, I think that might be offensive. I'm bothered by your placard. No, never. You know the type of person I am. If somebody has said to me that they're feeling insulted, offended by something I don't, I would have backtracked. I might have backtracked and said, "Oh my God, really? Let's put this back in the car." Okay, I'm not sure about this. No, no, no. My understanding of coconut was completely reciprocated, and the placard was very well received throughout the whole day. Yeah, the day goes on, and then I actually remember the very moment that that picture was taken of me. What happened was we pulled over to the side because we were with kids and they were getting a bit knackered now, and I'd found myself in front of a wall that was absolutely full of people sitting or standing on it, and many, many, many cameras. Anyway, sorting the kids out, snacks, this and that, tying up shoelaces, having a little rest, and I'm holding the placard at this point. Mind you, the placard's going around the group. At this point, I'm holding it. And a voice from the crowd in front of me just says, "Oh, I love your placard. Can I take a picture of it?" Now, this has happened tens of times up until now. So I go, "Yeah, sure." And I hold it up. Now, most people don't know that coconut placard, there was something on the reverse of it. And I had drawn a picture of, I painted a picture of Cruella de Vil. And I'd stuck Suella Braverman's face on it. And I'd written underneath Cruella Braverman. So I held it up, and the person, this male voice shouts out and says, "Oh, yeah, great, but not that side. Can you turn it around for me, please?" And I go, "Yeah." And I turn it around. Now, in my naivety, I held it up. You can see that I'm holding the placard up and away from my face, and I'm thinking, because I don't want to be in everybody's pictures, I naively think he's taking a picture of this placard. I don't know that I've been pictured in it. I'm smiling off into the distance, looking and talking at other people. I have no idea my picture's been taken. It was taken at 3:18 p.m. That's the time it was uploaded, and that's about the time it was taken as well. So it was uploaded almost immediately. The police have commented underneath at 3:24. So within 6 minutes, the police have commented underneath, and they were the first people to comment underneath. The first comment underneath, Harry's Place, with my picture saying the most the most racist of them all, or anti-racist, something like that. It said the first people to comment underneath was the Metropolitan Police, saying we are proactively looking for the person in this picture and will take proactive action when found.
So I saw it when it hit Twitter at that point. So I saw it when it was like, we're looking for this woman, and I was like, holy shit, why are they looking for a woman for this placard, right? One question just quickly on that, and this is something that I don't think we can never necessarily prove, but do you think that there was some connection between the person who took your photo and the police?
Yes, it came out. It was revealed in court. So it's quite an interesting, dark and insidious relationship. The person who took this picture, their Twitter account is Harry's Place. Harry's Place is a pro-Zionist, anti-Muslim, far-right, hateful, spiteful Twitter account, and they post. They are constantly trying to push anti Muslim, anti black and brown agendas constantly. It was revealed in court that Harry's Place is a Twitter page based in Washington, D.C. So it begs the question, why are they uploading pictures of black and brown people in the UK constantly, tagging the Metropolitan Police, and why is the Metropolitan Police liaising with them? Why is this person, this anonymous Twitter account based in Washington, telling the police, I've got this citizen I've taken a picture of in the UK, tag the Met Police, and the Met Police within minutes have responded. So you're working together. You're working together. It's Armistice Day, November 11th, 2023. Suella Braverman is on the cusp of losing her job. She's called the Palestinian marches hate marches. She's condemned the police for allowing the marches to go on. That criticism is going to be the nail in the coffin for her. And the police are, it seems to be the police are actively looking for hate on this march. Mind you, Palestinian marches, one of the hallmarks of Palestinian gatherings and solidarity is that they are peaceful. Okay? On that very same day, you have the far right coming out. They're not happy that the police have allowed this protest on. They're emboldened by Suella Braverman's comments. They're emboldened by Rishi Sunak's silence, and they come out and they are having violent clashes with the police, with protesters, with each other. And it's all well documented. And they're over there at the Cenotaph defending it, I don't know from what. And they are in violent clashes with the police over there. So Harry's Place is taking my picture saying, look at this hateful person. And the police and the media who can't find hate on the hate march home in on me and my satirical placard. So police have responded within 6 minutes. I'm walking around the march for a further 2 hours. I have no idea that my picture is circulating online. I have no idea that the Metropolitan Police are looking for me. We then leave the protest and we speak to some police officers. We can't find the road where our car is parked, so we find some police officers. There was 3 or 4 of them, and we say, "Hey, do you know where this road is?" And they really kindly help us. At that moment, it was about 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. It's dark because it's November. It's now dark outside. I'm holding the placard, and I'll never forget the police officer that was speaking to my husband. The officer next to him was having a good look at our placards, having a read of the words, and having a good look. Sends us on our way. No problem. There's no issue. Mind you, the police are looking for me. They've started a hunt for me online. I'm there in front of police officers. I'm holding the placard in question. No police interest in that placard whatsoever. It was in the car journey on the way home is when a family friend messages me. She says, "Marieha, have you seen this picture of you online?" And at that point, it had like 1 million views already. And I don't even have Twitter, so I quickly get Twitter details from from family member, and I get online, and things spiral really quickly from there. Actually,
So when do you eventually get, um, I guess, cautioned or arrested, or like, how does it work? Like, what happens next? And at what point do you get the police appeal? Because from what I've read, it seems to be relatively fast in terms of how everything happened. And I guess just the last question on this bit is, do you feel that And I think we've already kind of alluded to this already, but do you feel like the search for you was proportionate, or was it something, or was there like was it almost unduly too fast? Was there something behind it that went, this smells a bit weird?
Yeah, I mean, 6 minutes. I've never seen the police post for a missing child that quickly.
Yeah, true.
So there's something very, very insidious going on there. What happens is that the same night, around 9:10 p.m., the Metropolitan Police take the picture from Harry's place, the exact same picture, and then they put out that wanted notice for me, saying that I was wanted in relation with a hate crime. So they've officially posted it on their Twitter account, and it immediately racks up millions and millions really fast, right? Um, and every time I refresh on Twitter, I see that my family pictures, pictures of my children, my wedding, things like that are appearing online. And these far right Zionist anonymous accounts are digging deep, trying to help the police find me. We start shutting down all my online accounts that I have, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We shut everything down, and we are advised to leave home because the press attention was becoming, the interest was so much. And so I said, no, I don't think so. I think it'll be fine. And I can see the Daily Mail online, Sky News online, it's picked it up. But I think it will, I just think it's a thing that it's a viral thing, and it will be over tomorrow. It's a viral thing, but it will be over tomorrow. That's where I think we're at. Sunday comes round. We can't get hold of the teaching union, can't get hold of a lawyer. I'm not going to speak to the police, I'm not going to speak to anybody until I've been lawyered up. So we're sitting and we're sorting all of that out. It transpires that by Sunday, the police know who I am. They've got the details from who I am. They know who I am, my name, where I live, where I work. They know who I am. So the purpose of that notice they put up has been met. But they don't take the picture down for a further 4 days. They leave it out. Why are you leaving it up? It's whipping up hatred. Why are you leaving it up? It's whipping up a pile-on against me. Why you know who I am now? Why didn't you take it down
So just to clarify on that, so they knew your details, they had your details, they had confirmed all of this, and
by
then
Sunday?
by Sunday, and then they still allowed your photo to stay
No,
on Twitter for four
they
days.
do. They do.
Wow.
Monday comes around. I get lawyered up, and we start preparing a police statement, and my police interview is booked. So I was never arrested. I think that's a common misconception. It's a story that I've been. I was never arrested. I had to go in for a voluntary police interview that was booked in for the Tuesday evening. So I spent all of money preparing a police statement with my lawyers, and sitting in the lawyer's office. I've left my two children, my 6-year-old and my 1-year-old, with their paternal grandparents. And my own family start calling me, my mum, my dad, my brother and sister, and they say, the press are outside. And I say, oh my God, really? They say, yeah, they're knocking on the door, they're calling the house. My brothers asked them to step off the property. They've parked outside on the road, and they're waiting there. And they rang the house phone so many times that my sister unplugged the house phone. My parents close the curtains, they sit indoors, and they don't leave. Anyway, my father's a doctor, so he's got to go to work. So he does leave. They're trying to picture him. He puts a face mask on, and he just tries to drive to work and come back, and just goes. He's been an NHS worker for 40 years. He goes to work, and my husband and I don't return home because we believe the press might be outside our home. Obviously, we live separately. We don't return home, and we don't return home for a further 3-4 days. And so my children that I left with my with their paternal grandparents, they stay there. Well, my oldest son, he's stayed with sleepovers. He loves it. He doesn't have a problem with it. He loves staying there. My 1-year-old has never ever been left overnight, but to be left for 4 days, that's not happened with him yet. I have no choice. We cannot meet back up. The press are everywhere, and it seems to be a dangerous time. We are feeling threatened and intimidated. The police have set the whole of the far right and pro-Zionists out to look for me. And I feel like a truly wanted woman over this placard. And I feel intimidated and in danger and scared. So we separate and we all go into hiding. Tuesday, I go for my police interview. The police interview was absolutely extraordinary. I have this police officer interviewing me who's taken personal offense to my placard. He's enraged. He's mocking me, belittling me. He's yelling and shouting. At one point, he goes on for he has a rant about the placard and the word coconut, and what I'm wearing that day at the march, because I'm wearing a hoodie in the picture that has Free Palestine on the front. And he mentions it, brings it up. And when my solicitor intervenes and says, you don't have a question, in fact, you're hectoring my client, just ask the questions, he absolutely loses it and threatens to call in the inspector and have my solicitor removed from the interview. It's my right to be in there with my solicitor's doing his job, making sure you just ask the questions and not to bully me in there. And he's threatened to have him removed. And I found that really intimidating. I was quite shocked and surprised by that. And at the end of it, the other police officer starts reading out tweets online saying, well, this brown person finds it racist and that brown person finds it racist, and starts reading tweets. So from the get-go, you can see that their entire case is online. They're getting their information from social media.
And the whole argument is that it's racist, right? Like it's a hate crime.
So the crime that I was charged with was that it was a racially aggravated public order offence. And the idea is that the placard, the markers of the crime are that it's inciting violence, it's hostile, obviously racist, abusive, yeah, and grotesquely offensive. Now the prosecution, they agree from the get-go that it doesn't incite violence. It's actually not particularly hostile. It's not offensive. I'll come back to in a minute. The 2-day trial was that it was abusive. Okay, it was abusive. Now offensive is different, because you're allowed to be offensive. You're allowed to be offensive when you're critiquing politicians and policies. You're allowed to. It's political critique is a protected speech, so you can't be criminalized for being critical of any criticism. By its nature is going to be offensive. If I criticize the color of your shirt, if I say I don't think grey looks good on you, to be honest, you might feel offended by that. Okay, any criticism is by its nature going to be offensive to the receiver. You can't be prosecuted for this. Also, I'm at a protest. I'm protesting. I'm at a march. If I'm not going to critique politicians at a march, where else am I going to do it? It's the absolute place to do something like that. So it's not offensive. Isn't really even the problem here. Offensive, everyone else might have a problem with. Offensive isn't the crime here. The crime is that it was abusive. To who? We have yet to find out. The prosecution have never been able to explain who's the placard. Is it specifically to those two people? Are they being abused, Rishi Sunak, Suella Braverman? Because I don't understand them to be the complainants at the minute. So, is it abusive to?
So it was never this. It was never. So I guess I can almost ask this question in two ways, which is it was never revealed who the complainant was then.
No.
So it wasn't the state taking you to court. This was actually someone complaining that led you to go to court then.
My understanding is the state has taken me to court. The CPS have made a decision to charge me. But if there was a complainant, like for example, if Rishi Sunak and Suella Braverman have seen it and they've reported it to the police and they said, we didn't hear that. They would. My understanding is they would need to come to court then and explain how they've been abused and victimized by my placard. That didn't happen. So who's complaining? Who's being abused? Who are the victims here? Is it Rishi Sunak, Suella Braverman? Is it white people? Is it other brown people? Nobody knows. It's never been explained. The prosecution have never been able to explain who's the victim here, what's happened, who have I abused. So the whole case was about that. But if I go back really quickly, sorry, I think that's my
Yeah, no, please.
I really want to go back really quickly and just explain that after I've done my police interview on Tuesday, I go home on Wednesday. I pick up my children. I've left them since Sunday. I pick up my kids and I take them home. And I think it's over. By then, the Times have done a story on me, this big revealing piece saying the person the Metropolitan Police were looking for revealed. Marieha Hussain, teacher. And in that news article, they talk about who I am, who my parents are. They put information about my father and where he works and who is the value of the home that he lives in, where he lives, where I was brought up, absolutely everything they could dig up about us. And and I pick up my kids and I go home. I think it's over. The police still have my picture, wanted notice, still up on their Twitter site. At this point, it's racked up 16 million views. The union have told me, pull your son out of school. The far right are looking for you. This is a dangerous time. For safeguarding purposes, I pull my son out of school. And I pulled him out from Monday. From Monday, he was with his grandparents. We were in hiding. When I say we were in hiding, even my son was pulled out of school. Um, the Metropolitan Police have done that. They've whipped up the far right and these pro-Zionists. Find her. We want to find her. She's committed a hate crime, and they are falling over themselves to be the first to find me. We go home. I take my kids. I go home. It's Wednesday night. I'm in bed with them. I cuddle them. The baby, I've left him for four odd days. He doesn't even want to know me. He seems to be showing. 1-year-olds are so clever. 1-year-olds are so clever. He seems to be upset with me. I try and pick him. He wants to get away from me. It breaks my heart. So I get into bed with my two little boys and we go to sleep. There's a knock on the door, 2:30 in the morning. The ring bell is going knock, knock, knock on the door. We look on the ring camera, the police are outside. My husband and I are whispering in the dark to each other, what should we do? What should we do? And I say, we decide together that we're not going to open the door to the police. We don't know what they want. We don't trust the police at this point either. Okay, I don't know why they're there. The next morning, 8 a.m. in the morning, I drop my kids off back to their grandparents, and we go into hiding again because we feel that we are still unsafe. We leave again. The lawyers write to the police and say, "Why did you come at 2:30 in the morning?" Because that is an outrageous time. Unless there's an emergency, that is an outrageous time to knock on any citizen's door for anything. It was obviously alarming and distressing. I was terrified. And mind you, I've never ever had the police knock on my door or any family member's door, so we're scared, okay? And I'm scared anyway. I've been scared for days now. They don't respond. There's no note as to why they came, who to call, who to contact. They never respond to my lawyer either. So to this day, I'm not really clear on why they were there. We have two theories. The first is that they were there with some warrant. I mean, I don't know how the law works, some warrant or some way to enter my home and take my phones and take my laptop and see if they can find anything that I've posted or tweeted or shared in any chats that might really bolster a charge against me.
From what I understand, if they had a warrant, they should have been able to access the property. I definitely do question why the hell the cops were at your house.
Why were you there?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's one of the things. I mean, we're guessing at this because they've never responded. We've asked, what's the purpose of this police visit at 2:30 in the morning? I've got a screenshot on my Ring camera to show, and it's timestamped. They were outside. Police car, police officer knocking on the door. The other thing that it could have been is that they were there to warn me that I'm in danger from the far right, and that they were doing safeguarding checks on me. And they've come, and the danger was so obvious and so critical that they had to come immediately, which is at 2:30 in the morning. And that,
Again, on a slight comparable, I got a threat to life notice in March of 23, I think.
right.
This is a month before, I don't know whether you heard, but there was a Sikh guy in Canada who got assassinated. If the cops are going to give you something like that, which is what you're alluding to, they will leave basically what's called an Osmond notice, which is a piece of paper, and on it explains, like, this is the situation. The fact that they did neither of the two things that you're discussing, I think, says to me, it says a lot without going in too much detail, because why are they there then?
Why are you there then?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know to this day why they are there. These are my assumptions. These are discussions that we've had.
yeah.
And some of the legal advice that I've had around me is that it could have been one of those two things. I think that if you agree to let them in your home, maybe the rules change, which we did not do. I don't know. I'm none the wiser. We leave home again I'm feeling threatened and intimidated. I don't trust the police. I'm scared of them. I'm also scared of the community I'm living in. I'm scared of people knocking on my door. I am scared right now. We put on face masks. Everybody's got these COVID masks on again, and we're every time we have to go out in public. Son's been pulled out of school. The situation's pretty bad. And my dad starts getting abusive emails at work, at the hospital that he works in. He's getting emails. There's this particular person in our community starts emailing him, sending him really bigoted emails, saying that, your daughter has done this. Mind you, I'm an adult with my own agency, right? And my father wasn't even at this protest, nor was he with me. But that article kind of merged the two of us together, and I think people were confused that maybe my father was with me, and says that if you don't make a statement to the national press condemning your daughter and her actions, we deem you unfit to serve our community. So, I mean, going out of the trial for a minute, my father is the immigrant success story. Skilled worker, contributes, no criminal record, doctor, worked for the NHS for 40 years, unblemished record. What more do you want from him? His daughter can exercise her freedom of speech, and at a protest, criticizing politicians, and you've become unfit to serve our community. That's all it takes. That's the fragile, thin line that I think immigrants walk. And I think that most of us don't realize that. We think we're embedded and we're here and we've got roots, and this is our place, our home. They will remind you very quickly, at any mild perceived transgression, that you need to go back home. That's all it took. Anyway, I digress for a moment, and then we go to yeah, no, and then we go to the police have never responded to that. Eventually, we do make our way home. We collect the kids. I go home. I want to shower. I want to get changed, and within 20 minutes, the police have turned up again. This time, they parked their car down the road, and the police officer walks up to the house. My husband is in the front driveway doing something with the car, tinkering with the car. I'm inside. And again, let me just remind you, we are terrified of the police. We don't trust them. He makes a quick call to me and he says, the police are outside. Hangs up. I have a quick look through the window. There he is outside. How did they know we were there? Are they watching? How did they, within 20 minutes of me coming home, packing a few bits for the kids, packing a few bits that, things that I need and want, and the police have turned up outside. What I think has happened, again, we emailed and said, why are you here? No response. I think what has happened is that they wanted to speak with me, and they did not say what they wanted to speak to me about. They spoke to my husband. They would not speak to him about what they wanted to speak to me about. They just said, where's your wife? Where's your wife? He says, she's out right now. Where is she? Don't know. Gave some vague answers. I don't know why they were there. I don't know how they got there. But an idea that I have is that they spoke to my neighbours. They knocked on the doors of my neighbours and said, the police is looking for them. When they come home, here's my card, here's my name, call us. And we suspect that the neighbours have done that. They've left a card for the neighbours, potentially. Nothing for me, who they're actually looking for. No card for me to say, call me, we're looking for you, it's to do with this. Zero. We start getting shunned by the neighbours. The school community is shunning us. I eventually take my son back to school when it's deemed safe to do so. And finding the whole process humiliating, degrading, and terrifying. And then legally, there's silence for 6 months. Nothing from the police. We decide to move. I've at this point very quickly lost my job. I think that's well known as well. I've lost my job. We pick up home and we leave. We're fed up with the neighbours. We're not really cracking on with where we are now. Mind you, I've lived there for 10 years, no issues. But this is all it's taken, and our lives are upside down. We move, we pick up and we move home. I've discovered that I'm expecting baby number 3. So, I mean, it's a blessing. It's a wonderful, but the timing was a
I
little
know. I can
Right.
sympathize. We had our first one this year, and yeah, life hasn't been the same.
Well, I've been the same. When you have a baby number three, and your first one is only 13 months old, and you think your middle one's only 13 months old, you think, oh my God. But I've got this police case, we're moving, I'm pregnant. And we start getting in touch with the police saying, little update, she's pregnant. We've had nothing from the police. We don't think this is in the public interest. There seems to be no fallout socially from this either in society. So we plead with them to drop the case and NFA me. If they're going to, can we do that earlier rather than later so that I can just relax now? And, I don't want anything to happen to my pregnancy. Everybody's well known and
Yeah.
well documented that extreme stress is very, very, very harmful. It can be very dangerous to your pregnancy. And I was under extreme prolonged stress. Police are not responding. They're just not cooperating, not responding. Mind you, if I don't cooperate with the police, I'm going to be arrested. They're just not cooperating. Just give us an email back. So May 11th is the cutoff period. If they don't charge me by May 11th, they cannot charge me now. Okay. May 10th, I find out I've been charged by journalist. So there's a journalist who's a wonderful friend now of mine. She's working for Al Jazeera, and they're doing a piece about the Coconut Placard, and the police are investigating at that point. She's emailed the Metropolitan Police asking for a comment. Chris Humphreys replies to her. Chris Humphreys is the person who put up my picture and wrote that tweet saying the police were looking for me under Harry's place and put up that picture. He's also brought to trial to testify as well for the state. Chris Humphreys emails this journalist back saying she's now been charged and gives her all the details, my personal details. He emails her, this journalist, my court date appearance, the crime that I've been charged with. I have no knowledge of any of this. So, and he also threatens her with contempt if she goes ahead with the journalistic piece. Anyway, Al Jazeera have their own lawyers and they crack on with what they need to do. The piece goes ahead, albeit it's been changed now because I've been charged. And she tells me I have no knowledge. I ring my lawyers and they say it's come through, you've been charged. I was like, but they've got, it's the end, it's the deadline. And the police say, oh, we've notified you via postal requisition. To this day, I have never received anything in the post that I've been charged with a crime. My official notice that I've been charged was what the journalist told me. Nothing was ever received. And they said that they sent it on the 10th. The 10th, how would I have known by the 10th? How would I have even known by the 11th? You need to give it time to be received. Mind you, it's never been received. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and just say they're lying. They're lying. They're lying. Okay. I've been charged. The date for my hearing is the 26th of June. The 26th of June is National Coconut Day.
What else
Okay?
can we say? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm at that point 6 months pregnant. Cage are advocating for me. Okay? They're doing videos, they get me lawyered up, everything is going great. Okay? We go to court and there's a massive rally outside. Good 70, 80, maybe even 100 people outside protesting outside Westminster Magistrates Court. Coconuts are out, okay, like real live coconuts. And Cage actually notified the police beforehand that they're going to do this protest, and they say they want to use a reimagined version of my coconut placard, and they ask if it's okay to do that. So they hold the coconut placard with a notice saying, for the attention of the police, FOA, this is satire. That's all it says. Okay. They ask the police, is that going to be okay? The police say they're not sure, maybe, maybe not. They don't say anything. They hold the placards outside for a couple of hours, and once more and more people and the media start turning up, the police bring out vans and start arresting Cage members, 5 of them for holding the placard. Before the arrest, they warned them and said, you need to put these placards down because they're offensive, or this, they're that, and the other. And Cage get rid of the placards, they put them down. They followed police orders. They put the placards away. The police come back a little while later saying, actually, we're going to arrest you all anyway. But why? You've given a warning that something you're doing in public is not okay. The person has stopped doing it. You've come back and arrested them anyway. So they've all been arrested. and they're all facing the same charge as me. A sixth cage member is on the mic and she says, so they're chanting and they have all sorts of slogans that they're saying, and she says, "Coconut, coconut, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide." Arrested. Okay, that happens. It seems to be that they are putting on a show in front of the media. They put on gloves. It's well documented. You'll see it on social media, and they're picking up coconuts that people have bought in solidarity and just mocking the whole case actually, and they put them in little evidence bags, take them away in their police vans. This is the Metropolitan Police, one of the pillars of our society. This is where we're at. Okay, where you're not responding to emails, you're turning up to people's houses in the middle of the night, you're not saying why you're there, you're arresting fruit, okay, you're arresting people that have complied, okay. These people asked you beforehand if they could bring these placards. You lulled them into a false sense of security by saying maybe, maybe not, okay. We don't know if it's going to be okay. Mind you, the placard hasn't even gone on trial yet. It hasn't been deemed to be a crime yet. And you're treating everybody like criminals and arresting them. So a court date is set, and I say, okay, you've set the court date for 11th, 12th of September. I'm going to be 9 months pregnant by then. The state does not care. So exactly 9 months pregnant, I go to trial, and we have an amazing trial, and I was acquitted. I need to really, really highlight how important solidarity is, because the truth is, in the first 24 hours, I really thought I'd done something racist. And I couldn't believe it. They had me in the first 24 hours. I was reading what they were saying about me, and I thought, oh my God, all these white people are offended. They're saying I've done something racist. I didn't even have them in my mind when I made the placard. This is intra-communal banter and criticism. This is between brown people. And I think this is one of the things that's highlighted, is that when you live in white society and you don't center white perspectives, it can come back to bite you really fast. But that's the institutional racism that we live in. Is that, why did you not think about my white feelings and how I as a white person might feel about what you said to this brown person? I didn't even center them. I didn't even consider them. And the solidarity and support that I had from strangers, the online community, the way that they came in and absolutely, blew the place apart for this case. And the some of the tweets were so funny. In my darkest moments, they were making me really giggle. But the solidarity between campaigners, activists, and then just the layperson, from strangers, is the thing that kept me going. Because if I had done something and I wasn't getting backed or supported by anybody, I think I would have crawled into a hole and died. My soul would have left my body at that point, because nobody's supporting me.
Quick pause for a moment. I just want to share something with you. I make all of these videos alone, from finding the guests, doing the reading, preparing the questions, recording, editing. I think you get the picture. And as you can imagine, it's very time consuming and quite taxing. So if you enjoy the work and want to help me keep it going, consider becoming a YouTube member or joining our Patreon. You'll get early or ad-free access, plus some extra perks, and it genuinely helps support the growth of the channel. Hopefully one day I'll be able to afford some support. That would honestly be really nice. Someone who could organize the guests, or someone who could help build our advertising wing, considering we average about 5 million reach across our platform. However, I'm going off on a tangent, and to be quite honest, I never know quite how to promote my own work. So I'll just say this. If you want to support what I'm doing, join Patreon or become a channel member. It genuinely helps. Our goal is to reach around 100 members on each to keep the channel sustainable. Anyway, let's get back to the discussion. I guess this brings me on nicely. There was a few questions that got sent in by some of the community yesterday.
Okay.
And these, answer them as deep or as long as you wish to.
All right.
Some of them I think are quite pointed, so apologies if it comes across like that. So the first one is, if you could go back, knowing everything that's happened obviously since, would you still make that placard, or would you change something?
The only thing I would change is I would add more faces to it.
Touche.
I would add more.
Is there anyone in particular who you'd add to it?
At the minute, right now, Shabana Mahmood, she can get on there. Preeti Patel, she should have been added. Kemi Badnoch, she can get on there. David Lammy, Cleverly, they can get on that. they can get on that palm tree.
I don't think there's anyone that I would have said no to. Yeah, so touche. Yeah, fine. When you drew Sunak and Braverman as coconuts under a palm tree, what was the message you were trying to get across?
Yeah, I think I might have covered this, but what I was trying to say is that when we have brown faces in high places, you've got the top job in the country. You are Prime Minister and you are Home Secretary. I don't expect favors from you because we're brown. I don't expect that. What I expected was that you would bring the communities that you represent and that you are, by your very nature, represent, you would bring them in line with our white peers. That we are policed and we are critiqued and we are favored the same way. We want equality. We don't want you to pick on us, target us, criminalize us, and endanger us and harm us the way the racist white institutions already do. We just wanted, when we see you up there, to bring us on par with the white society. That's what we were expecting. We weren't expecting favors, no. But what they have done with their racist policies and their very dangerous racist rhetorics is that they whipped up their race riots, which happened just months before my trial. And that's really just a culmination of things that they said and did, and the media, and they whipped it up, created this pylon, and you've got people literally burning down hotels that they think migrants in, dragging black and brown people out of cars and battering them. They've done that, and there needs to be an accountability for that. And so I was calling them out. I was calling them out for their racism.
Last one from the community questions is if a and I think also this question is what's the word? I personally think it's not a good faith question because of the way it's constructed, but I will let you deal with that. Because I also just think that as soon as you change the context, everything else changes with it. Like it's almost it doesn't quite compare to in my brain. But anyway, if a white far right protester used the word coconut against Sadiq Khan, for instance, would you treat that as satire or racism? And how does, I guess, the context or the intent change the meaning?
It doesn't even make sense. Why
That's
would a
exactly
far
what I
right,
thought.
why would a far right person call Sadiq Khan or any brown person a coconut?
Yeah, it doesn't hold the currency.
If he's far right and this brown person is a coconut, well then they're aligned.
Yeah,
Actually, they'll be in bed with each other.
yep.
Is
And
that
therefore, there's no satire. Then there is there because
then it's not
actually,
that. Then actually that's your brotherhood, okay? Because you're the same. And that really is because it's political. It has political meaning. It's not about race. And so the question doesn't even make sense, to be very honest with you. But the other thing I want to say is that this isn't language for white people. You can have an argument with a white colleague or a white neighbor or anybody, and they can call you every name under the sun, but they will never call you a coconut because it doesn't pertain to them and it's not their language. They don't understand it. And it will never make sense for them to call me, you, anybody a coconut. It doesn't make sense. It can never be used in that regard, and it isn't used in that regard. So the question is invalid, but that criticism from a white person, can a white person call another person, a brown person, coconut? It doesn't even make sense. That's why they never do it.
yep. And it never has been used either. So there
And it
isn't even a
hasn't been used.
precedent. Yeah, yeah.
No, this is and this is brown, black, and brown language. And so white institutionally by their own reports and their own admissions, institutionally racist institutions cannot objectively police our language. They're providing no cultural sensitivity, no background, and no understanding. And if they do try to do that, what they try to do is center themselves as victims in a place where they're not the victim at all.
My last two questions, I
Please.
promise. This one is this one isn't a community one. These are actually what I had thought about prior to this recording, which is what is the one thing that you wish people understood about what you went through, the trial, everything from Placard up until today, that you feel has been lost in the headlines or the media coverage?
Palestine. The thing that I think that I really want to highlight is not what I went through personally, not my pregnancy, not my job, not my kids. It's Palestine. It's that our government is supporting funding a genocide in Palestine. Today it's Palestine. In the past, it's been many other nations. In the future, it will be many more too. Okay? Our country has a history of brutal state violence against black and brown communities at home and abroad. And their hypocrisy, their racism, their bias, their prejudice, the media's double standard as well in the entire reporting of this as well. I think that it needs to be really centered when I talk about my trial and my case. Number one. And number two is the actions of the police. Because the actions of the police, the actions of the CPS, some of the things that came out at trial are not well reported. And those are the things that I think have been lost. So, and I'll give you an example. The police responding to the tweet within 6 minutes, the police coming to my house, the fact that the CPS accepted this case and took it to trial where there were no victims, there was no complainant, understood, there was no experts willing to come to trial and testify for the state against me that Coconut was racist in any way. And the one expert, they wouldn't touch it, they wouldn't even respond to the police. There was one expert, Kahendi Andrews, who did respond to the police, and he wrote a lengthy email saying this is not a hate crime. In fact, this is satire, and this is really important critical critique, a political critique. And he urged the CPS to drop the case, and the CPS dismissed it because it didn't align with their agenda. So the things that I really want to highlight is Palestine, the police, the court system, and the agendas that they have pursued when they prosecuted me.
My last question, and it kind of ties into what we've just discussed, which is you have gone through something extremely unique in the way circumstance brought you to that, brought you into the eyes of the police, and then the way that they've handled everything. I think there are very few people in this world who will ever be able to say that they went through something similar to yourself. However, I think at the same time, yes, you can treat it as an anomaly, but I think it's also a warning in a sense, especially to people of color. So so where I'm trying to go with this is, from what you've experienced, from everything that you've gone through, what is your advice to other people of color?
This one's quite close to my heart. I think that the state tried to make an example out of me, and I would urge our community to understand the lessons that have been learnt here. Know your rights, always defend the oppressed, always speak out against injustice. Today it's an injustice against that person, tomorrow it will be you. So your silence doesn't save you, your silence won't protect you. Your silence won't work in your favor when they come for you. And that every contribution matters, whether it's in classrooms as a teacher or in the workplace, or what you teach your children, or what you discuss with your friends, even your conversations. Every little bit, every little contribution matters. So go to the protest, don't be afraid to say what you need to say, okay, and do it with your head held high, and know that even if it does come at a personal cost, there is an entire community absolutely rallied, ready and engaged to support you, as they did with me, legally, financially, and in any moral support that I needed at that time. The community is very, very strong, very, very powerful, and there's strength in it. So please always stand up for the oppressed and stand up for justice, no matter what.
Thank you. This is something that we've been trying to organize for a couple of weeks. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for even just giving me the light of day. But obviously also to do this, I've really enjoyed it. I think there's so much more we could talk about, but we've already been talking for like 70 minutes. So
I know.
just
I want to
yeah.
thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me a voice and a bit of a platform and space to talk about what happened with my trial and its further implications. And just you've been wonderful to talk to as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who you think would appreciate it. It helps the channel grow more than you think. And before you go, not to drop another Dr. Dre pun, but the next episodes are going to be big ones. They might not necessarily come out in this order, but we have a back catalogue of a number of podcasts that I need to edit, including podcasts with Professor Eleanor Nesbitt, a podcast with Guy Bowman regarding the escape from Epinal. It will be a 4-part series, which I need to get around to editing. We also have Sun Tzu in the West with academic Peter Lorge from the US. Again, it is a fascinating podcast. For instance, Sun Tzu isn't even one person, but again, that will all come clear in the podcast. I also have a 4-part series with Escolar and GSN that we recorded, I think now 2 years ago, regarding who killed Chamkilla. Again, I need to edit it. On top of that, I have a number of podcasts that are going to be recorded in the next few weeks even. With the success of the podcast regarding Gallipoli with Peter Stanley, we're now going to do a number of podcasts with a number of academics regarding First World War and Second World War battles that Indian soldiers or Indian Army soldiers were involved in. We're going to be doing a couple from the First World War that we were recording in January and hopefully sharing with you guys soon. So again, pardon the ramble, but if any of that sounds like interest to you, then please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next upload. Otherwise than that, we're trying to hit 20,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please subscribe, share this with anyone else who you think can help, and I will see you in the next one.